Today, we've got a story for you that, it feels like it's from a completely different era, but the lessons are absolutely timeless. It's about a young aerospace engineer named Randy, who's fresh out of school back in the 1960s, stepping into this incredible world of rockets and big, big dreams. But what happens when those dreams smash right into reality? This is a story about high hopes, some really crushing setbacks, and the unexpected lifelines that can change absolutely everything.
And really, this quote just nails it, right? It gets right to the very heart of Randy's story. This isn't just about calculating flight paths or wing designs. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, in the power of mentorship, and in having that foundation that makes it possible to take big risks and, to recover when they just don't pan out.
So let's set the scene. Picture it. It's the summer of 1964. A young Randy has just powered through 3 years of studying aerospace engineering, and he's about to make that huge leap from being a student to being a professional. This is day one. This is where his journey really begins.
$400 a month. Just let that sink in for a second. That was Randy's starting salary at his very first professional job with a company called Wagner Aircraft. Now, it might not sound like a fortune, but you got to remember, for him, this number was everything. It was the official start of his career. He was finally getting paid to do real engineering work. And this wasn't just, any old engineering work. He was thrown into this super ambitious project focused on something called boundary layer control. The goal, to build a commuter aircraft that could take off and land at just 60 miles per hour. I mean, this was the cutting-edge stuff of the day, and Randy was right in the thick of it. So while he was learning the ropes, Randy found a fantastic mentor in a veteran aerodynamicist named Bob G., who really took him under his wing. Now, make a mental note of that name. Bob G. That connection is going to become absolutely critical a few years down the line. Trust me.
But as Randy was about to find out the hard way, the aerospace industry is, it's a turbulent business. That initial smooth flight of his career was about to hit some pretty harsh realities.
So just as Randy's hitting his stride, boom, Wagner Aircraft folds. But the founder, a guy named Fred Wagner, he quickly starts a new venture called Sunrise Aircraft. Randy manages to land a summer job there, but this time, wow, he had a whole lot more responsibility. He went from being the junior guy learning from the veterans to being one of the only aerodynamicists on the entire team. And for a while there, man, things were really taking off. He became a full-time employee, got a nice pay bump to $500 a month. He was traveling for work. He co-authored an official NASA report, which, come on, that's a huge professional milestone. And he started hitting those personal milestones too, like buying his first car and moving into his own apartment. His career, it seemed like it was on this perfect, unstoppable upward trajectory.
But then, the crisis. This is that moment in the story where that smooth upward climb just suddenly hits a sheer cliff. Everything that Randy had been building, it just starts to completely unravel.
And it all came down to this really simple but terrifying question. In March of 1967, Sunrise Aircraft just couldn't make payroll. The company was in trouble, and employees like Randy were asked to keep working, but only on the promise of getting paid sometime in the future. Now, Randy's father, Fred, he had a really good head for business, and he gave his son some very direct, very blunt advice. Don't work for promises. He saw all the warning signs. But Randy, he was young, he was optimistic, and he was loyal. He kept on working right through the spring and summer, just hoping that things would turn around.
But the promises, they never came through. By September, the company's failure had left Randy completely broke. After having that first taste of independence, he had to face the incredibly humbling reality of packing his bags and moving back into his parents' home. It was the first real crisis of his adult life.
Despite the huge setback, Randy was determined. He landed a job offer from Northrop Ventura, but it was 170 miles away. And with absolutely no money, his plan was, it was pure desperation. He was going to live in a cheap motel, put every single expense on a credit card, and just pray that his first paycheck came in time. I mean, it was a total high-wire act with absolutely zero safety net.
And this is where the story takes such a dramatic turn. Just as Randy is about to go all in on this incredibly risky plan, a lifeline appears from his past. One unexpected phone call is about to change his entire future.
And you will not believe how fast this all happened. We are talking about a single day. On Friday, October 21st, just 3 days before his big, risky move, Randy gets a call from Roar Corporation. He explains his whole situation, and they agree to interview him that same afternoon.
He rushes in, and unbelievably, they offer him the job right there on the spot, with the same start date he needed, Monday, October 24th.
So how on earth did this happen? Well, it turns out his father, Fred, had been quietly passing his resume to some of his old contacts at Roar. And whose desk did it land on? None other than Bob G., the same mentor from his very first job 3 years earlier. That connection he'd made in the past was the key that unlocked this incredible last-minute opportunity.
I mean, just stop for a second and think about the two completely different realities Randy was facing for that exact same Monday. Path A was moving 170 miles away to a cheap motel, totally isolated and betting everything on a credit card. Path B was starting a stable job just 8 miles from home with his family right there to support him. In a single Friday, his entire future pivoted. It's just wild.
So, what can we learn from this absolute roller coaster of a career start? Randy's journey is just packed with these powerful lessons about navigating professional life, especially when things go totally sideways.
Okay, let's break this down. First, your network is a lifeline, period. His dad's contacts and that old mentor literally saved him. Second, never work for promises. A hard lesson, but one that proved to be 100% true. But maybe the most important takeaway is this. Having a support system doesn't mean you're never going to fail. It just means you have a safe place to land, regroup, and try again.
And here's the resolution. With the stability of that job at Roar, Randy got back on his feet really quickly. Within just a few months, he had repaid all his loans, saved up some money, and moved out again. But this time was completely different. He was leaving from a position of strength and confidence, not out of desperation.
So that brings us to the end of this explainer. Randy's turbulent launch really teaches us that a career is never a straight line. It's full of advances and retreats and all these unexpected turns. And it leaves us with a great question to think about. What failure in your own life taught you the lesson you needed most?